Are you purposely drinking?
Yes.
Oh.
It's my couch conversations thing. I did this on all the other ones, you know.
That's annoying. Okay. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Smith's On Demand. We're here with another couch conversation, and we're talking about why we waited for marriage. And when I say waited for marriage, I mean 4 years, no sex, while living together in a 500 square foot studio apartment. You're doing the most. So let's get to it. I'm gonna let Dre start with why
I
he
decided to
decided
wait.
to wait for marriage because this was not a me led decision. This was his decision. So take it away.
Yeah, so a lot of people don't know that I was the one who decided to wait for marriage, and my wife and I, Bree, waited for 4 years. Now, the reason why I decided to wait for marriage was at this point in my life, I was ready for a wife, I felt like, and I was 22 at the time.
Which was funny.
Um, but I don't know, I just got into this point to where I was getting tired of like sleeping with different women and then not even liking them enough to want them to stay over, you know? And it felt like I was acting outside of myself. Like it wasn't the core of who I am. It wasn't who I was as a man and as a person. It just didn't feel right. And I knew at that age, well, I was comfortable and I knew at that age of 22, although I didn't go through a ton of life experiences, I had enough experience with God to know that anytime I did things the way God said to do it, it always turned out better for me in my life. So I felt like at that moment, if I am ready to find the woman who I was going to spend the rest of my life with, the biggest influence in my life, and the future mother of my kids, I want to be intentional in making that decision. And I want to be sober in my mindset of when I'm choosing this person. And although the Bible says to wait to have sex until marriage, like I think people have to look into the why. Like, why does it say that? Like, the rule is one thing, but then when you look at the why, you'll figure out the love behind it. And there's reasons why you're being told to do it. Not just because somebody wants to ruin your fun, but because things can turn out better for you and they care about you if you go about things the right way. So that's why I decided to wait for marriage. And for me, when I did end up meeting Bree, I felt like I couldn't renege on that okay, well, now I found somebody who I feel like could be my wife. I cannot now, I cannot like renege on that decision of waiting for marriage and be like, just playing God. You know what? Founder, appreciate it. We actually about to start doing it now. I felt like since I made that commitment and he came through for me, it was my obligation to hold that commitment and he'll bless our lives and bless our marriage. And I feel like we're still reaping the benefits of that decision that was made. But I also thought it was important as me being a leader in our household that if I put a plan together and a strategy and say that I'm going to do something, that my commitment to that would speak volumes to her about her ability to be able to trust me, not just because of the decision that I made and me following it, but also aligning with what I feel like God told me to do and staying disciplined in that, in the discipline that I'm keeping with making the decision that I made. So that's why I decided to wait for marriage.
Later on in the video, you guys will learn more about the time that he's talking about, like when he's like, "Oh, I can't renege and stuff," because we went through a thing where I was like, "God loves us, we can have sex." But for me, on the receiving end of someone receiving news that, this person I'm interested in wants to wait until marriage, I wasn't completely turned off or scared by it because I was in a situation where I was getting out of a very toxic relationship and I was in a space of healing, growing closer to God. And I had decided from a dating perspective that I was taking sex off the table and that I would only do that with someone who I was in like a fully committed relationship with. And I was nervous that I wouldn't find a guy who would wait to have sex with me to like until we were like official. So when he shared that news, I was like, okay, well, I was like, this is somewhat what I wanted because you're definitely okay with us not having sex. But I was like, till marriage? I just didn't know anybody who did that or wanted to do that. So I had questions and I was like, I need to know timeline. Like, how long do we date for realistically? How long once we're engaged, do we wait until we actually go get married? Because I was very adamant about having a destination wedding. And I was like, we need to give people at least like a year and a half notice. We allotted for 2 years when we were coming up with like our plan. And Dre's like, I feel like dating like, at least a year to maybe a year and a half. And then once we're engaged, another year and a half to 2 years. So I'm like, okay, so we're looking at like 3 to 3.5 years max, hopefully, right? Like 3 years max was like what I was thinking. And I was just kind of like, why not? I was in a space where I just wanted to be with a good person. And me dating Dre, that was the first experience I had being in a healthy relationship. And at the end of the day, I didn't really have a great relationship with sex. Like I had in the past, the only thing that would keep me to these idiot boys or men was this physical connection of me feeling like I've given you all of me. Like, like, why don't you love me? And it was very toxic. And I was like, I don't want that for myself. I don't want that for my future daughters. And I want to be an example of what it looks like when you choose God first and you focus on a happy, healthy relationship. So that's kind of where we were. Now, as we get into our story, go check out our How We Met video if you haven't done so already, because that explains everything leading up to this point where we move in together. So Dre asked me to be his girlfriend the day I moved to DC. I said yes. Less than 2 months later, I moved into his 500 square foot apartment. Let me share why we moved in. I was coming from a space of making really bad choices. And I got to DC and I made more bad choices. I got an overly expensive apartment. I had brought my assistant here with me and I had this 2 bedroom, 2 bathroom that was out of my price point. I was trying to make it work. It wasn't working. Dre was like, I told you not to get that apartment. Why don't we do this? And he came up with a solution that would help me, but also make sure that my assistant was in a good place because I couldn't be like, hey, just kidding, go back to Cleveland. So at the time, he was a property manager, and I moved in his apartment, which he had a discount on because he was a property manager of that building. And then he was able to get my assistant like a
A discounted
discounted,
apartment as well.
yeah,
Yep.
to where she could afford. And
Hmm.
it was, all the things. So I'm like, okay, cool. This is a well-rounded solution. But now, elephant in the room, how do we live together and not have sex?
I think one of the more challenging parts about moving in with somebody, especially in our situation where we were waiting for marriage, is we lost the moments of truly like courting one another, which also affected our relationship. So we kind of moved into this space very quickly to where we were at a level of our relationship that is fine because people get to that level, but we just lost a huge courting phase where we could have developed a stronger, more intimate connection in a different way than you do than when you live together. So that's what I'll say.
Yeah. Boundary wise, we were real PG-13 with our boundaries. And people would always ask us, like, oh, you guys aren't having sex, but are you like doing other stuff? And we'd be like, other stuff like what? And they're like, like oral. And we're like, no, that's sex. Like, we're having no sex of any sort, not even touching. Like, we didn't touch each other's private parts at all. It was real PG-13. My boundaries were no French kissing, so like no making out in the house. Because to me, that's like taking me to like the pregame and then being like, oh yeah, never mind, there's no party to go to. And it's like, so why did we come here? Didn't want that. The other thing was no touching private areas. Oh, I feel like that's
Which
kind of
wasn't
like
really
a
like a thing
together
for
thing.
us, though.
Yeah. But we could see each other naked. In the bed, I would sleep with like underwear, panties. He would just be in like boxers. So it's like we weren't like tempted by those things. What was your boundaries?
Well, it's still my boundary to this day, I guess, in the right circumstance. But she would always be like, "Take a shower with me. Take a shower with me." And I'm like,
But
"What?"
yeah, you still don't like doing that.
I'm like, "What? Like
It's
what?"
got to be a real fabulous shower for him
With
to
space.
agree.
I don't. Why am I
He'd be
washing
like,
up with you?
it's
But
not to wash
I
up together.
know.
It's just to
So
be
if
cute
we
and
gonna be cute, we need
romantic.
space. I ain't about to be in there all cramped. Um, but yeah, we have both of our boundaries. But one thing I want to touch on that you had spoke about, and I just thought
Wait,
about
you had
this.
a really really good boundary was the drinking thing.
That was not a boundary. That
It
was
is a
yours.
boundary. No, it's not. You literally made it a thing. If I was drinking, you would not allow yourself to get drunk. So basically, it was a lot of me being drunk by myself because
Brie got selective memory. That was not my boundary.
DeAndre,
It was not.
we had a whole issue going into our wedding when you feeling like this was going to be your first time being able to let loose with me because you had always had to be the person to make sure like we were
Yeah,
good.
that wasn't for a sex thing. That was because you would act crazy when you would start drinking.
Well, excuse
I didn't know
me.
what to
I thought
expect.
it was because you didn't want us to both be drunk and make bad
No.
choices.
So leading to what I was
Well,
about to just say was because Bree didn't have a healthy relationship with alcohol early on in our relationship.
I did not.
And it wasn't necessarily about sex. It was just about anger,
I think I
crying,
told myself
sadness.
that was the reason.
But for me, it was like, and I want to ask you if this is actually the case because I just thought about this just now, is that one thing that could make it easier. First, we weren't hypersexual people to begin with. I think coming into our relationship, so it's like we weren't like one of those people even separately that were like crazy gun ho like sex
Speak
people.
for yourself.
Um,
No, just kidding. It was not.
but also I think when you are doing something with somebody and you guys make a commitment together, I think you both kind of play off of each other as far as what the lines and the boundaries truly are. But when you interact with a partner who is super disciplined in it and almost frowns upon you like doing the wrong thing, then I think it makes it not necessarily easier for you, but you put the pressure on yourself to not be the one to fail in the commitment that you made. And you could let me know if that's true because during this process of waiting for marriage, I was very disciplined and like, this is what I'm doing. This is what we're doing. I'm not playing around about like faltering or making any mistakes in this process.
Yeah, so if I'm being honest, when I agreed to wait for marriage, I thought it wasn't gonna actually happen. I thought like we would go a few months and then he would be like, yeah, nah, it's okay. So after I tried and attempted, a good two times, I was like, oh, he's serious. Like he is not kidding. And I could tell he was like disappointed in me for thinking that he wasn't serious. And I was like, dang. And that was actually when I realized like, oh, we're really doing this. Um, and I could tell again from his response, from the way he was moving, he was just very obedient. And so it for me was like a threefold agreement. It was like, okay, you told me we're waiting for marriage. I agreed to doing that. However, in the back of my mind, I was like, there's no way we're going to wait 3 years. Then, as we move in together and things are happening, I'm realizing that one, taking sex off the table allowed me to really work on myself because in the past, if you have a situation, someone doesn't like something you did, have sex, it blows over, it's not addressed, and it's just wiped under the rug. With us, we didn't have the ability to do that. So when I made bad decisions or when I had anger problems or when things would arise in the relationship, I was forced to actually deal with it.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
When you came to the realization, like, oh, shoot, he's serious, was that like level of discipline that you saw in me attractive, or did it have you like second guessing your decision?
No, neither. I didn't think it was attractive or unattractive. It didn't have me second guessing my decision. It just made me be like, this is interesting. He's really doing this. And I enjoyed your company and your friendship and the potential of you as my husband too much to not just commit to it.
It's just so funny when I think about like our relationship early on and the people that we were at those moments, and I'm like, why did we like each other?
I know, it's
What
interesting
did you
because
like?
you were so
Like
like
I was a good guy and I was very like kind and very
you were like a
purpose
father.
focused, but I was not like touchy feely at all.
You
Like I
weren't
did
super
not
fun.
affectionate that much. Like we could have fun with each other,
Yeah.
but like if you're talking about, hey, we're going out, let's party, like
You weren't like a partier, you weren't like
especially not with her.
loud and
But just in general, I wasn't that type of person to begin with.
yeah, no, it is very interesting.
And she
Like
was a
I
mess.
just remember being like like I just felt like there wasn't any other option. Like not saying I couldn't be with someone else, but I'm like it was like there's no question of whether I'm gonna be with you or not, you know?
I think our biggest things was like we didn't let those things get in the way of the person we knew each other to be. So I just feel like you knew you were like, this is a really good man. He cares for me. He loves me. He's genuine. He's authentic. And all those other things, I'm not going to let it get in the way of the things I know to be true. And for me, it was the same way around. It's like, I know she has an amazing heart. She's kind. She's generous. She's sweet. She's a go-getter. She's spontaneous. Like I need that balance in my life. And if we can just get these other things to come, you know, across and get to the right place, then we'll be good. So over our whole relationship, it's really gotten and getting us to the point to where it's like keeping the things that make us us, but just kind of meshing when it comes to those other things. So it's so funny that now in our relationship, even with certain stuff, we flipped on how we were because we've
See, but that's I think
involved so much.
I think the thing was balance. I feel like
Yeah.
we both felt like the other person balanced us. We needed what the other person had.
And we just had to remove some of the negative things that we brought to the table that hindered the relationship, which we've done a great job of.
Yeah. But yeah, it is interesting when you think back. It's like, what the? It's crazy. Okay, well,
It's part of being 22 and 23 too. We can get together. It's like you don't know
I
much.
don't even know who that person gonna be, okay? So yeah, no, it's crazy. Well, the next thing I want to talk about is the judgment
Okay.
from friends, from family, from church, from whatever's. So the very first piece of judgment I received about our decision to wait was from my family. They pretty much every single person
It was like
was
a
like,
funny judgment though.
they're like, he's gay. There's no way that they're like, no, I don't, that's red flag. Like, you might want to watch out. And I'm
Had they
like,
seen me at that point yet? Or you were just telling them?
well, Fela was the one that was adamant that you were gay and she had not met you. Then it was like my aunts on my mom's side, they were just kind of like, this is interesting. Like, why does he want to do that? And like, and he's not. And but like once I said no, they never brought it back up. Fela, until we got married, thought you were gay. They all were just very surprised and had questions and was like, hmm. Hmm. Your family, I'm sure it wasn't a surprise that you were waiting for marriage.
No, because I had made the decision before I even met Bree and talked to my parents about it. But I remember, and Bree probably remembers this, is shout out to my friend Abby. I was sitting there laying in Ovation. We were laying in the bed together, and I called Abby, and I was talking to her on speakerphone, and I don't think she knew Bree was listening at all. And we were talking, and she was like, "So how did she take the whole waiting for marriage thing?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, we're good about it. Like we decided that that's cool." And she was like, "Okay, good, 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 good." One of my closest friends, Rhonda, who I work with too, Abby, Rhonda, of course, is a super supporter of Bree and I, and like loves my decision. But when they knew me before Bree, and they was like, "Come on now, brother! Like I've seen you in action. I've seen you come to work today and come the next day with the same clothes on. Like I know how you get down, brother. Like ain't no way." But it was more like, okay, if you say you're gonna do it, all right, we'll see.
And you know, my friends, all of them, it impacted them in very positive. They all were like, "I'm gonna do that too," and like everyone was trying to take away sex and different. They all failed, but they were very inspired by it and was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna try that." And we got the title of like mom and dad because we were kind of like the couple that like our friends would look
We were
up
the only
to.
ones that were like truly in like a legitimate, like
We were the
real
first ones to
relationship.
get married and last ones to get pregnant at this point, but we were very much like they got to watch us go through our entire dating, you
And
know.
I will say too that Specifically, let's talk about moms. Like, what did your mom think when she had met me or
My
you told her
mom
about it and
was
everything?
so annoying because first of all, she ain't know really nothing about Dre. Well, I can't say I talked to my mom often, so my mom would know. I would talk to her about Dre. But after like we became boyfriend and girlfriend, she's like, "Oh, I can't wait. I'm having the most beautiful grandbabies." And I'm like, "Grandbabies? Like we're first of all, we have a long way to go. Where he wants to wait for marriage."
Mom loves me,
And
and I
I
love
think for
her.
my mom, she was kind of like, like they're not gonna have sex for 3 or 4 years. So all she's thinking about is grandbabies. And she's like, okay. And then as soon as we got married, she's like, where's grandbaby? Where's grandbaby? Where's my grandbaby? Where's my grandbaby? And so her thing was like, she was just head over heels in love with him. And I mean, still to this day, like I will tell her something, and if I'm like, Dre just did something stupid, he just did blah blah blah. She's like, don't call my baby stupid. He probably didn't did it. You should just do blah 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 blah. Like she will check me
I
about him.
love her mom. She loves
So
me. I love her family, all her aunts and everybody. They're so sweet.
yes, they all loved Dre. But the funniest part was bringing him to Florida for the first time to meet all of them, like my white side of the family. Yeah, we was gonna leave that for a different video. We had a situation where we, were at a church, we were in Bible study, and we ended up getting kind of like shunned from Bible study after it came to light that like we were living together, even though we were waiting for marriage. That was kind of like our first like kind of public judgment, like public personal judgment that we experienced, because at the same time we launched Worth the Wait, our YouTube channel where we just were talking about the journey of waiting. And we had lots of people online being like, you can't wait for marriage and be living together, that's just as much of a sin. And so we had lots of judgment from different naysayers online who were like, there's no way, or even if you are waiting, you shouldn't be living together because that's a sin. And people will always have opinions about things, but I feel like that's pretty much all of the judgment we received or had, right?
Yeah, and the biggest thing is about discernment. Like, everybody has their own relationship with God and your own walk with God, and you know what you are and are not doing in your home. And the funny thing is that making the right decision doesn't leave you free of ridicule or people's opinions. So it's like, even if you are doing what people quote unquote feels the right thing, it's not gonna not come with criticism from the outside world. So whatever decision you make, you have to be comfortable with it and understand like this is the decision that I'm making. And even my parents, who are ministers, they love me and love Bree and all those things, still, wanted us to live separately. But
Oh yeah, your
it's
parents.
it was not even delivered in a way of like, you have to do this. Because I remember I was scared to tell my stepdad and my mom, and they have certain rules around that. But my stepdad was like, I mean, you're a man. Like, that's your decision to make. I have my opinions on it, but you have to decide. Like, I'm not, like, you're not a child. You decide what makes sense for you and your future family, and whatever consequences may or may not come from that, you also have to deal with those too as a man. So it was great how my parents dealt with it, although they were ministers and had their own opinion. And for me, even though I knew I trusted them and I loved them and I knew that they had and wanted the best for me, it was the discernment that I had, and I feel like through my relationship with God and what I was being told, that made me feel comfortable with my decision and being okay with whatever consequences I felt like may have come or may come from the decision that we made. So
Yeah. Also, fun side note, Dre's parents were our premarital counselors leading up to our wedding because they were the ones officiating us. So that was a really cool experience, and we'll talk about that in another video. But I want to talk about our engagement. So I remember being upset that Dre didn't want to go and like try rings on with me. He was just like, "Tell me what you want." And I was like, but I want you to come. Like, I wanted to do the whole thing where they bring the champagne and like you try all the different things. I knew exactly what ring I wanted, but I just wanted him to experience it with me. We did do like a few little things, but I wanted him to go do like the full experience, which
I
we
didn't want to
ended up
do that.
not doing. So I sent him a picture of this ring, and it just didn't have a
Halo.
halo. So I remember when he proposed, I was so excited and happy that I kind of forgot that I get a ring. And I remember seeing it and being like, wow, that thing is big. And it's because he added the little halo. I was like, oh, I feel extra loved. But let's talk about the proposal because that was the whole thing. And I'll show snippets as we talk about it. But you did a good job.
It was pretty simple. It was basically telling Bree that we were going to like a BET party because my friend Rhonda worked for BET so that she would get dressed, and basically inviting all her friends and family out, my friends and family, and doing it at the building where we lived and at where we worked. So basically the plan was because we had an outside apartment door that she would walk out that door. She would see her mom and she would be like, hold on, what in the world is going on? Like, why is my mom here? Because her mom lived in Florida at the time. And then she would
And
get
she
into,
hadn't visited me in
yeah, she
DC
hadn't
ever up
visited
until
yet.
that point.
And then she would get in a car that my homeboy Antonio was driving. She would think she's going somewhere, but then it'll drive her back to the front. Meantime, I would run up to the club room where everybody was and then had her, my friend Janae, walk her around. And it was like candles and everything, walking through the pool area. And then like a line of like all of her friends and balloons going up. And then I made a little speech, and then that was the proposal.
Well, the thing that was funny is like I was kind of upset. I thought I was gonna meet Oprah that night, and
You're trying to get her to hurry up.
once I realized Oprah wasn't at my, engagement, I was like, oh, okay, well, an engagement is still cool.
But we're gonna do a whole engagement reaction video to
Yes.
really break it down.
Yes, it was good though. He definitely got me because I knew he was proposing once I saw my mom, but I just wasn't expecting all of my friends from out of state to be there, so I was definitely crying.
At that moment, we were like, "Oh, okay, we got maybe another year for the wedding and all that stuff, and we'll be good to go." So this was we got engaged in 2018, August 8th,
August 18,
18.
18.
Yep,
Then the worst thing that could happen happened.
the
My
pandemic.
my worst fear is that the timeline get pushed back. So we had set the wedding date. Pandemic happened and we had to push it back another year and some months. And I was like, what does this mean? Does this mean we're gonna wait another year and some months until we can have sex? Or like what can we do here? I remember telling Dre, like, okay, this is too long. Like 4+ years is a long time. And he gave the whole speech of I'm not gonna, you know, do this when I committed. Like I can't be like, God, give me this, then he gives it to me, and before I'm fully, at the part of my commitment being committed. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Completed. That I like renege and go and just like do this thing. So I'm like, Dre, God loves us. It literally it says that God will forgive you. Just ask for forgiveness. And I was like, why can't that be us? And he was like, no. And then I remember I had to apologize because I was like, I am so sorry. I should be supporting you in this, and instead I'm trying to like get you to change your mind. This is also a commitment I made, and I apologize. And then in that span of a year and a half or whatever it was, we actually really needed it. Like, I feel like that last year really helped us prepare for what being a husband and wife looked like. Because at that point, we had already had all of our premarital counseling for like 2 years. But like that last year was just like us really learning more about each other, really preparing, really practicing all the things. And like sex was just the last kind of cherry on top.
And I'll say for those who asking, like, "Oh, why don't you just go to the courthouse?" For us, at this point of our lives, we were living together. We had already started a business together, which was our full income. So
Our
all
only
of our
income.
our all of our expenses were together. So we felt like the only thing that truly differentiated us from being a couple that's dating and fiance and engaged from husband and wife was the presence of sex in our relationship. And we wanted to celebrate, like, we went on this journey and had this vision for our lives, and we wanted it to be a celebration of, hey, we're finally there, and we actually did do the thing we committed to do, even though there's a lot of people who feel like we didn't. So
Yeah, which is interesting.
we didn't want to just do a courthouse thing because it didn't feel like really capitalizing on the moment.
Yeah, it's like it's something we're really proud of, and I think especially too because there were so many people that were like there's no way, and it's like we know that we didn't. We had no reason to lie. The journey of waiting would have still been a journey of waiting even if there were hiccups. People have done that. We just weren't one of those people. So it was something that I was like, I want the wedding I want. I deserve all the things that I want it to be. And we deserve to have all of the people that we want present. And if that means waiting another year and a half, it means waiting another year and a half. And kind of the mindset we took was like, this is just an opportunity for us to grow closer together and to better prepare ourselves for marriage.
Yeah.
But planning the wedding definitely helped. It was like a distraction too. Like it helped time go by quicker because I was just so obsessed with wedding booking. And it was a wedding that was so worth the wait. Make sure you check out our worth the wait wedding. It was destination. We did Dominican Republic. It was beautiful. We had all of the people, almost all of the people that we wanted to be present. And we'll talk about more of like what actually happened, like who was there and who wasn't there in our
Wedding breakdown.
wedding breakdown because yeah, it was a lot that happened. It was a beautiful wedding and it was everything that I wanted. I wish I could redo it every single year. I'm trying to find a way to like make a 5-year reunion make sense because it was just like the most awesome experience ever. But I think now we can talk about the pros and cons of waiting because I was on I was on a high of the wedding that it was kind of like I forgot to give myself some, I don't know, like realistic expectations around the sex portion of it. We actually didn't even have sex until like we
The
got
second
married,
night.
didn't have sex. The next day we went like all day and didn't. We randomly had sex before one of our bonfire events just to get it over with
Yeah.
because I think we were like
Kind of
we were like
nervous.
anticipating or we had a lot of anticipation around it and it was just like let's just get it over with. So pro obvious closer relationship with God. Truly felt like when we were getting married, like it felt right. It felt like we did the right things. We took all the steps, and now this is something that you get to add to the relationship, but it doesn't make the relationship. That was really cool. I never felt so close to someone who I haven't been intimate with in that way. So that was like really cool. Other pro, and probably the biggest one for me, was space for self growth. I feel like when sex is involved, you can have a lot of misunderstandings or just situations where there was a problem, but the problem is swept under the rug because you just kind of keep going with the flow of things. But like when sex isn't present, you're really forced to deal with whatever that issue is. And the only thing that can get to a solution is conversation and communication. So like that our communication was top tier because it's all we could do was talk. And then the last pro, there's no way our business would have been as successful as it was, as quickly as it was, if we were having sex. We gave all our time, all of our energy to our business, and that business is what has allowed us the life that we live now and the freedom that even I have now to not have to work and just focus on starting a family. So those were the pros for me. The con, and it was really one, I I always tell people I don't think waiting necessarily is for everybody. And what I mean is like waiting to marriage. I think that there is such a thing as waiting too long if you have your person, right? So I'm not saying if you're single and you're waiting, that's like, oh, you should just go and hop in bed with the first guy because reach the threshold of what's too long to wait. I'm saying if you are in a committed relationship, I do believe that there's a threshold that makes waiting too long, meaning that after you pass that, it's very difficult to add sex into the relationship, and it is a transition. But I think adding sex to a relationship, no matter how long the wait, is going to be a transition either way. But for me, it just felt like we went so long without it that I no longer craved it or felt like I needed it. So then it was hard to even remember, like, oh yeah, we can have sex, or like, oh yeah, we can make out, like, because that can lead to something else. So it hindered a natural romance that I feel like we didn't experience because we were essentially best friends, roommates, and business partners. And then we got married. And now it's like, okay, now go out in the world and be lovey dovey and romantic, have sex and do all the things. It was very like, we are so removed from it that it's hard to add it back in. So that would be my con.
Okay. So my pros are pretty much everything that Bree has said. One thing I'll add is that in your relationship, it's just a series of making decisions together and setting goals together and choosing to commit to those goals and all the actions that it takes to reach that goal and commit to the thing that you both said you committed to. And I think early on in our relationship, by making such a bold commitment that we were both setting for each other to hold each other accountable for, to stick to, and all of these things, it put our relationship first in a good place of understanding that we had a task and a goal that we were trying to achieve together early on. But it also lets you know a lot about the person that you're with, that can we come together and truly be disciplined in trying to achieve something together. And I think that that led to us kind of knowing that we were the right person for each other, because although we had our different opinions on the way, we had weak moments at times, that commitment stayed true throughout that whole time, and it let us know that we can accomplish things together if we set our mind to it. So I think that's definitely a pro, because that's all your relationship is going to be, or it's going to be filled with a lot of making decisions together and trying to achieve it together. And like Bree said, the whole thing about, the relationship with God and understanding that it's almost like a mental thing that you feel like you can withstand anything.
Mm-hmm.
Because really, the reason why sex is such a big thing when it comes to monogamous relationships is because it's the one thing that universally everybody believes that you can't do with somebody else, right? Even the whole emotional cheating thing and finding somebody emotionally to lean on, people do that with their moms in relationships, they do that with their friends in relationships, they do that with a lot of other things. Like, you can still get drinks bought for you, you can still have, like, you can still do a lot of things, but the one thing that everybody believes should not be a thing is sex. So when you are able to take that off the table and still thrive in your relationship, you kind of feel like you can withstand anything that anybody could throw at the relationship, right? So
Yeah.
I think that's definitely a pro. And then the cons is exactly what Bree said. And I'll throw in the con of also living together early. And I said this earlier in the video, is, the romance kind of dies. You don't really get to court as much when you're living together. So that really sucks. But when it comes to waiting for marriage, I think, as Bree said, there is a period to where you kind of evolve your relationship to be able to actually achieve the goal you set out to achieve. But you change as a person, especially if you were super sexually active before, or you did certain things and behaviors when you were with somebody in a relationship. So over that time, the cool thing is that your body resets, right? So even like, though she had sex before, the first time we had sex, it was kind of, she was like, yo, this is painful. Like, kind of almost like, when you, I would imagine, lose your virginity and those things. So it's like a cool reset of the body so that you're kind of becoming one again at the same time. But also, it's just
It's kind of like
reintegrating.
rewiring your brain
Yeah, it's
because
like,
let's say I walk by in like my underwear and bra, all right? Naturally, his instinct as my husband, someone who'd be attracted to me, would go to sex. But for 4.5 years, he had to train that instinct to not look at that and think that, but to be like, that's Bree, that's my wife, and I love her, and I'm waiting for marriage, right? So it's like if for 4 years you tell yourself not to have those thoughts, not to think with that brain,
Yeah.
then it's like, and now I'm supposed to just turn it back on. That's hard.
But now that I think about it, it's like we list it as a con because it's a hard thing to integrate
Yeah,
into your relationship. But now as I'm thinking about it, is that people having sex during the dating phase and leading up to marriage, there are still tons of marriages that after 5 or 6 years, then the sex still goes
withdraw.
cold.
Yeah,
So it's like I think that doing it the way we did it, although integrating it back into your relationship is a challenge, right? And something that, especially if you haven't done it before, it's definitely something that you have to get adjusted to. But I think that that's probably the better way of doing it because
for sure.
we still to this day are sexually attracted to each other and like having sex with one another. But it is not part of like the foundation of our relationship. It is truly the cherry on top and not part of the Sunday. Like I can still enjoy this Sunday, our relationship without that cherry being on there. It's just if it's on there, it's an added bonus.
Prime example. A week and a half ago, I had a DNC surgery for a miscarriage. We went on a staycation for 4 days, and I was post surgery a 1 week, so we couldn't have sex. So on this in this romantic space that's just surrounded by nature, very cozy, we couldn't be like physically intimate, but like we had a great trip, and it was nothing we would change about it. Whereas most people, if they go, your girl's on her period or whatever the case is, and it's like, hey, we can't, So it's like it gives opportunity.
I'm thinking about our like sometimes I'm trying to put it through Bree's head like I'm good, man. We waited for marriage. Like I could wait 3 weeks. Like when she was sick and all the nausea and stuff, she said there like, I can do it. I can do it. Just let me know. I'll get in the shower. I can do it. I'm like, Bree, you look like you about to half be dead. Like I do not want to have sex with you in
I
this
was like, it
space.
has been 4 weeks. I'm so
And I'm like,
sorry.
I'm like, I'm good, dog. Like we waited for, like I waited 4 years. Like I could wait 4 weeks. Like I'm all right, and this is not going to be enjoyable when you in this state.
Oh,
Which I
oh
stand
God.
corrected. It was actually very enjoyable for us both. but
Oh, it's funny.
but yeah, we like I said, we feel like we can work through anything and stand the test of anything because we went through that experience, and we still feel like God is blessing us for that commitment that we made. Still at this point in our lives, so
Yeah,
I wouldn't trade it our experience for anything. Especially, I love that our relationship as year and year and year and year continues to go on. Like it's getting
somehow gets
better.
better and better.
Yeah, and that's how it should be.
Interesting. So let's talk about where we are now. We just celebrated 4 year anniversary in April, a few months ago. And our goal this year was to have a baby. We had a pregnancy and a miscarriage and a pregnancy and a miscarriage. If you haven't checked out those videos, go check them out. But now we're just in a space where, again, we just really value our relationship. So once we got back from our staycation, we got very clear and aligned on things. And although we're not in business together anymore, and I retired the business, and Dre's kind of doing his own thing with my assistants in very small ways, we found a way to get back to work together as a couple, which is really cool because that's where our magic lies. So we're really excited. This channel, Smith's on Demand, is going to be my full-time job. So like it is my priority. So all the editing, all the planning, all the just making sure that we are showing up and we're being consistent. And so we really are just excited to see how the new content, like the different playlists that we've created, how they perform and to see what you guys like. This is our very first time vlogging for real, for real. And so we're like, let's just see what happens. So we're like, let's just give it a year, just go all in on the things we have on our plate and let God do his thing. And because again, a man can plan, but God will laugh. So we're just like, I'm tired of being laughed at. Okay. I'm like, I'm not making no plans. I'm just gonna show up, live my life, be the best wife I can be, and vice versa. And we just kind of go from there. Yeah. You got anything?
No.